Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
Once a month, we like to have him on PC Magazine's Eric Griffith. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me again.
Well, you have a lot of new articles since we last spoke last month. I like this one. Invoice in your email, office file attached, beware. Tell us about that, Eric.
Sure. This is a little bit of research that was done by Symantec, the folks that are behind probably your favorite, or maybe not your favorite, antivirus software. They make all the Norton products, Norton antivirus, all that stuff. They also have a service that they run through all those products that basically is always looking at pretty much every email message that gets sent through their systems. So they look at something like 2.4 billion emails every day, and they can classify what those emails are all about. They know whether those messages that are being sent and received are good things or bad things, and whether they actually have threats attached to them. And when I say threats, I mean like malicious files that if you click on it, it can really screw up your computer or even your handheld. And what they found over the course of most of, I believe it was 20, various, they look at it every quarter, but over the course of 2018 and on into the beginning of 2019, they found that over the year, 1 in every 412 messages that was sent, and that doesn't seem like a lot necessarily. I mean, that's like 0.25%, but still, 1 in every 412 messages had a malicious threat attached to it. And many of them were hidden inside files that were made to look like Microsoft Office files. They could look like a .doc file for Microsoft Word, or even a .rtf file, which is the rich text format that any word processor can use. They all had some kind of maliciousness hidden inside them. And for the most part, if the message said something like invoice in the subject line, or payment in the subject line, or returned or delivery, these were all clues that they were bad news. The more often you see that combo of things, something that looks like a bill or an invoice and something that has a Microsoft Office file attached to it, it's best to think twice about it. If you're not expecting an attachment in your email, if you don't know it's coming and you're not ready for it, you should not accept it. You should probably delete it.
Eric, a couple of things. Number one, Microsoft. When people get calls from Microsoft telling them that their computer has a virus, and I don't know how many times a month I get a call like that, either here at the radio station or at home, the first thing you do is hang up, because Microsoft just does not call people to tell them that their computer has a virus.
Yeah, Microsoft doesn't care that your computer has a virus, really. They are getting those calls, and they will take your call probably if your computer has a virus, and they'll try to help you out with it. And they have antivirus software that is actually quite good, built into Windows 10. But no, Microsoft is not calling anybody to say, hey, you guys have a virus. That is a scam that people perpetrate. And, one of thousands of scams out there. But that's one that if you're getting it, and if you're getting it more than once, no, that's not something you should try to respect at all. Hang right up on them.
And another thing that occurred to me, people I think know that it's easy for scam artists to call and show up on the phone's digital display as a local number, either 324-281-661, one of those types of numbers, sometimes even a number of somebody that you know. Question. If I buy something from I don't know, Amazon or whoever, is it possible for scam artists to know this and then send a phony email address, to send an email with a virus pretending to be from Amazon?
Well, I suppose it's possible if they were to intercept the transaction in some way. And I mean, you can't say anything is impossible anymore. The things that I used to believe were impossible, just physically impossible, that all has changed over the last few years. You know, Wi-Fi networks, people with the right equipment can sniff packets out of the air and figure out all sorts of things like passwords. Now, that said, generally, these kind of guys, they're going after larger schools of fish. They don't tend to just go after one place or one person unless it's very easily automated to do so. So, for example, there have been many, many breaches in the security of various places over the last few years. MySpace had one. LastPass, which is a company that is actually supposed to protect your passwords, they had one. It wasn't that big a thing, but there's been many, many things out there where these things have happened, and I get reports all the time that my own data has been part of these breaches, and therefore my password and probably some of my personal information is out there. And what I will see frequently is scammers who are taking that information. They either buy it or they get it online for free because some malicious person has put it out there and just given it away to wreak havoc and cause chaos. But some people, they are a little more mercenary about things and they will sell it. Either way, the data is out there. People get it. They can see, like, my old password from MySpace back in 2008 was such and such a word, and they will send a mass mailing out to all the people that they can find on that list and say, I know your password was such and such, and now I'm going to hack you. And that makes a lot of people panic, obviously. And the reason they panic is they're still using the same password that they had 10 years ago. And if you're doing that, you're in trouble, because those people can get to your password, and if you're using it today on Amazon or on Facebook or on anything, they can get access to pretty much all your stuff because your username is usually just your email address. So please change your passwords frequently. That is something you should try to be doing. But better yet, you should be using a password manager like LastPass, which is still a pretty great company. We give it a 5-star review about every year on PCMag.com. But there's many others. If you don't like LastPass, there's Dashlane, there's others. Symantec, I believe, even has one. And it will basically give you software that creates a strong and almost impossible to break password on every website or service you would go to. All you have to remember is one master password to access all of those places. It's that simple.
Talking to Eric Griffith from PCMag.com. Let's go on to your next article. Now, last time we talked to Eric, we talked about one article, and it was an article about Facebook, and that was the whole show, which was very interesting. This time, we're popping around to different articles. Business Choice Awards 2019 for laptops and desktops.
Yeah, we do a lot of surveys at PCMag where we ask the readers of PCMag.com, what are your favorite brands in different categories? And I put together these surveys, and we quantify the numbers. We figure out, like, what are the best ones for home? What are the best ones for work? This one in particular was our look at the laptops and desktops people are using at work and what they prefer to use. And we know that the survey works because the results are pretty consistent year after year. And I can tell you right up front, the company that wins these awards almost all the time from us is Apple. People love their Macintosh computers. They always have, probably always will. And what's interesting is watching the numbers for Apple stay consistent, and most of the PC brands out there, the Dells, the HPs, they stay a point or two lower than Apple for the most part. But the company that is catching up with Apple in a lot of ways is the only other company that makes hardware and makes their own operating system, and that is Microsoft. Microsoft's laptops, their hybrid convertible laptops, the Surface brand laptops, and some of them are more like a tablet with a keyboard attached, their scores in our surveys have been getting consistently better and better, especially if you want something super portable that is as much just a screen as doesn't have a keyboard. The convertible hybrids are perfect for that, and Microsoft took home the award for that all by itself. They're just really nice pieces of hardware, and the fact that the company making the hardware also controls the operating system probably really helps with that a lot.
Talking to Eric Griffith from PCMag.com. Eric, you have an interesting article here. We just talked about Apple and Macintosh. It says, here's the next article. Don't tell Apple and Samsung, but the peak smartphone era is over.
Well, it's kind of true. Everybody out there, we've all got our smartphones. We've all got our little slabs of screen that we're all staring at all the time. And it's probably not much of a stretch to think that everybody who wants one of these things probably already has one of these things. And that's definitely true in the developed world and in the United States. I mean, I don't think there's much question that, everybody and their brothers got one. Sometimes they got two. Their little kids have got them. It's crazy. That's why the great hope for a lot of these companies who want to continue to have big sales has been developing world countries or giant countries with giant populations like China. China, however, has tons of their own companies making really great smartphones, and they're all based on Android, the Android operating system that Google developed and licenses out to anybody who wants it. Is super simple. Everybody does that, and they are companies like Wlea, who is kind of banned in the United States now by the government, and there's all sorts of people up in arms about that. But they're huge over in China. As far as it goes for Apple and Samsung, they're still the biggest, especially over here, but they're not seeing year-to-year growth like they would want, and it's going to continue to be an issue for them. They can come out with brand new, super cool iPhones and super cool Galaxy smartphones, but fewer and fewer people are going to buy them brand new because they've already got a phone in their hand that can last at least 2 or 3 years and is really great. There's no reason for them to be running out and getting a new phone every year. I mean, that might have worked around like 2007 or 8 when there was a new iPhone every year and everybody wanted to be super cool, but now these things are less cool as they are just useful.
Eric Griffith of PCMag.com. He's one of the few guys you're going to meet over the age of 40 who doesn't have to ask the neighborhood niece, nephew, or child, 7th grade kid, hey, how does this new gadget work? Eric doesn't have to ask that question because he knows. He works for PC Mag. In a lot of cases, they let him test out these interesting devices before they make the market, and he writes the reviews on them. So it's an interesting conversation when we have Eric Griffith on. Every month you write a article about the movies that are all done on Netflix. First question there, why are movies pulled from Netflix?
Well, that is a contractual thing. Netflix, the reason that they make so many original shows and so many original movies, and in fact, they had a movie that was up for the Best Actor Best Picture Oscar this past time, and I kind of narrowly didn't win it, I think. Netflix wants to make original things so that they never lose those. They own them, and they're all going to be there forever and ever and ever. But, of course, we all know Netflix is the place to go to find lots of movies and TV shows that are not Netflix originals, and those shows are not owned by Netflix. They are owned by the networks that ran them, or the studios that made them, or the distributors who distributed them. They all have the rights, and sometimes they have a contract that says you can have our movie or TV show for a few years, or you can have our movie and TV show for a few months. One really great example is the entire run of the television show Friends from NBC back in the day, the biggest hit show that NBC probably had in the 1990s and on into the aughts. It's all on Netflix, and they were going to pull it and put it on a different streaming service, and Netflix realized that people were still watching Friends so much on Netflix, it was dragging in viewers, and the more viewers they have, the better, because they want people to see their stuff and pay for their service, that they ponied up many, many more millions of dollars to keep Friends on for as long as they could. Similar things happen all the time. I wrote about the fact that the Ghostbusters movies, the originals with Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray, were leaving Netflix months ago, and then I had to write it again this month because they never left. They must have pulled a last-minute ditch effort to grab some money and keep Ghostbusters around because they knew people love to watch that movie on Netflix.
That's so interesting. We're going to take a quick break and come back. We're talking with Eric Griffith of PC Mag. Stay with us.
Tuesdays are Trashy Tuesdays at Little Italy. Every Tuesday, 4 to 8 p.m., the Little Italy Trashy Tuesdays menu includes garbage plate pizza, wings, muddy knots, dirty fries. Who says you're too old to have fun with your food? Check it out. Trashy Tuesdays at Little Italy. The Little Italy menu will be on Facebook with all the new food items, so keep visiting Little Italy's Facebook page.
Little Italy of Hornell.
Saying good morning now to meteorologist Rob Carolyn, who says it's going to be a mild week.
Overall, it is, Brian. Certainly not as cold as last week was. We've got high pressure in control for today and tomorrow. And as that high slips offshore and a storm system develops in the central United States later this week, we're going to notice that temperatures turn milder. In fact, by Thursday, we may make a run at 60 degrees across the region. Fair amount of cloudiness out there today. It's in the wake of a storm that passed west of us this weekend. Clouds and breezy today. Could see a couple of snow showers or flurries. Temperatures around 35. Sunrise this morning because of the time change, 7:28. It'll set tonight at 7:12. Tomorrow and tonight we'll see lots of cloudiness. There'll be some snow showers around. It'll be breezy overnight, 20 to 25. Those snow showers should taper off tomorrow morning with a high of 30 to 35. May actually start to see some sunshine develop as tomorrow afternoon goes on. Tomorrow night it becomes clear. It's cold, 15. Sunny on Wednesday. We're milder, 45 to 50. And again by Thursday we could be 55 to 60 degrees, Brian.
Talking to Eric Griffith from PC Magazine. And I'm going to throw a question out that's not in one of your articles, Eric. We hear a lot. When we were growing up, we heard a lot about the baby boomers. And the greatest generation was before them. These days, we're hearing a lot about the millennials. So I have a question for you, Eric, and just throwing this out to you without any prep, and I'm sure you'll know the answer. What's the current generation called? What's the nickname for them?
Z.
Generation Z.
I don't know where these are all marketing terms. They're meaningless. They mean nothing. What's a generation? Like, I just had a baby, and I'm almost 50. So did we skip a generation? I'm not even sure how that counts anymore.
Follow-up question to that. You picture somebody sitting at their cubicles at some kind of pop culture center. Where do a lot of these phrases come from?
Well, I think a lot of them are people in the media, like me. You can blame me and my ilk, but they are coming up with things that they can then turn into, the next meme, the next kind of thing to, just they want to have things to grab a hold of and say, I want to point at you, this person of this age or of this type of range of ages, and be able to label them. Labeling is just such an important thing. It's kind of like in certain mythologies where the names of certain creatures, like Rumpelstiltskin. If you can name them, you can have power over them. Well, that's how you have power over these young people these days. Is you give them a label and you force them to be, like what you think that label is supposed to be.
That's very interesting. Now, you are at the, Intellectual Power Center of the Southern Tier in Ithaca, New York. You got Ithaca College. You got that Ivy League school, Cornell University. Now, isn't it true that a lot of the, I know a lot of people in medicine and science go to Cornell, But you went to Ithaca College. Isn't that a place where some people will end up big in radio from their communication school? I'm thinking of people like Johnny Donovan, the voice guy for the Rush Limbaugh show, and then you got people like who went to Ithaca College, as did a number of other big names at the same time too as Johnny Donovan. And then you've got people that go on to do maybe some Hollywood or cartoon type things. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, Ithaca College has definitely pushed out some fantastic big name people. I mean, probably the biggest is Bob Iger, who is the president of Disney. He's maybe the most powerful dude in all of Hollywood at this point, considering that Disney owns the franchises for Star Wars and Marvel and makes more money than you can imagine. They're going to launch their own streaming service before the end of 2019 that is a direct competitor for Netflix, and Disney already owns something like a third or maybe a half of Hulu anyway. So they're essentially going to own two streaming television services. And, and that's just one guy who's on his watch. He graduated from Ithaca College, but on his watch he made Disney, which was already a powerhouse, the mega powerhouse. But they've had some super fantastic actors and actresses. CCH Pounder is from went to Ithaca College. She's a great actress. There's a few others I can't even think of off the top of my head. Oh, David Boreanaz, who was on the TV show Bones and Angel and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He's another big one. He's come back to town and visited. It's had some great people come out of there. I, however, probably not going to get invited to talk to the graduating classes of Ithaca College like those people. Not all super successful.
That's funny. I'm looking at some of the famous people who went to Ithaca College here, and this again from a Google search. Let's see. We got Carrie Butler, Jessica Savage, the TV journalist, Ricky Lake, the talk show host and producer, Gavin McLeod. We remember him from playing Murray on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and he was the captain on Love Boat?
Love Boat, yep.
Alan Combs. Alan Combs, the late Alan Combs, who used to be on Fox News. So there's no lack of big names. Eric, we're so glad to have had you on. I should let you go. You're on a time crunch. I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here, as always. We'll talk again soon.